Hi everyone and welcome to INFINOX Market Insights with me, Richard Perry, analysing markets for INFINOX on Wednesday the 13th of October. Now into today's session, there's a mild kickback against recent trends that have been forming, the bond yields that have been rising, driving the dollar higher. There's been a slight move against that today, slight unwind of that, but still we think these trends are still going to be in place because inflation fears continue to rise, and that is helping to drive bond yields higher and helping to support the fear trade, really, where risk appetite is relatively negative at the moment, still with a negative bias through equity markets, certainly. Although support levels on these medium-term ranges are still holding, it'll be interesting to see if that continues. We've got a big focus today on the CPI inflation data for the States. Now, how that starts to come in will be interesting because the transitory argument for inflation is still there from the Federal Reserve, and they'll be looking out for the plateauing of CPI today to help justify that opinion. However, the Fed members continue to talk up the tapering prospects, so that again helps to support the dollar and not all that great for risk appetite. So it'll be interesting to see how that comes out. We've also got the Fed minutes today, which will add some more meat to the bones on that front. So with regards to the charts we're looking out for today, we're looking at euro dollar, which has broken down, continues to fall, lower highs and lower lows. And again, it's sort of ticked higher today, but again, is this just another chance to sell? We're also looking at the silver chart, which has just struggled to really gain any sort of momentum in a recovery play. Resistance overhead is still in place. And we're looking at the DAX. German DAX has been under pressure, one of the more pressured to the downside indices, but it is still holding support. But is it a recovery play potential? Let's have a look. So on the INFINOX MT5 platform, starting off with euro dollar, we can see this downtrend that we've had over the past 5 or 6 weeks, this accelerated downtrend beyond the bigger downtrend, but it seems to be still falling, lower highs, lower lows. And you've had a little bit of a kickback today against that move, but still we're looking, I think, at further downside in due course. The big breakdown that we saw previously below the support around 16 big figure is still in play, failing to really get above 16 figure at all and in recent days, and certainly that downtrend is a force of negativity for euro dollar. Is there any prospect on the hourly or a 4-hour chart really of a recovery? Well, still negative configuration on the 4-hour RSI, consistently below 50, and you'd need to see euro dollar back above 1580 for any real sort of sense of a recovery, but even then it would be just 50, 60, 70 pips of recovery potential, and you'd be starting to then look at 1640 area as your next resistance there. But yeah, just generally speaking, euro is struggling. It's ticked higher today, but essentially I think it's just going to be another chance to sell. You haven't seen more than 2 positive candles in a row for the last 6 weeks on euro dollar. So silver chart, well, the resistance on silver is still in place, and it's interesting that you've had the likes of the Aussie dollar breaking higher in a recovery in a similar pattern, but silver's struggling, really is struggling, because you do have the conflicting forces of dollar strengthening and higher yields, which is negative for precious metals, but you also have the inflationary argument as well, which is positive for these precious metals. But essentially silver is still struggling around 22.75, 23.18 is the resistance overhead underneath this big downtrend, which is still in force, has been in play since June. So you'd be still, I think, looking at selling into strength. You've got the negative configuration. Yes, you've slightly picked up on the RSI back towards that 50 area, but again, that's an area where resistance has tended to come in. You do also find that the resistance comes in around the old breakdown areas, and that seems to be where we're struggling on silver at the moment once more. So I'd be looking at selling into strength within this downtrend. And finally on the DAX, well, just go at one more level. You can see the range on the DAX. You can see that support continues to come in around that 15,000 area, doesn't it? 14,800 to 15,000 key support area on the DAX, but lower highs driving lower lows, and the negative configuration on momentum really does put pressure to the downside, and you'd need to see DAX above 15,267, that reaction high, that we saw back last week, that would need to be overcome on to the upside to really suggest a recovery play. We've not got that at the moment, and DAX 4-hour chart doesn't really look as though it's doing a great deal. It's just turned slightly over again today, just struggling for any real traction in a recovery play. It does still point towards further pressure on that support band, but the support band is holding, so a little bit of a limbo for the DAX at the moment, but above 15,267 is needed to recover. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it informative for your trading. Join me again on Friday, where we'll be looking ahead to the US retail sales and consumer sentiment numbers. So I'll leave you with the INFINOX support and resistance table, and I will speak to you then. Thank you very much.